Hello everybody, Incon here to talk about the new Team Allegiance roster. So for those who don't know, guys, I'm going to kind of go through what the process has been and what has been happening with Team Allegiance basically since the end of the last split, and just talk about where things are going from that point onwards. So most people know that Oceans basically at the end of the split said, hey guys, I've got opportunities to go play on other teams. Specifically, he went to play with Team Envious. He thought that was going to be a better team opportunity for him, and so he went to do that. No hard feelings, obviously. Best of luck to Oceans. We were his first team. We brought him into the competitive scene, and now, he's hungry to be on the best team that he thinks he can get on. As of right now, he thinks that team is Envious, and so good for him. I wish him the best of luck. I don't think he's actually playing in relegations. I think they're using a sub for him actually in the relegations matches. For some reason, I don't think he can make relegations. But not the point. Secondly, which is a little bit less commonly known, we have another player that we have to, I'm not going to say replace because I'm not really replacing them as much as they are doing other things now, and that is Lasses. Lasses, who of course was our mid laner and is probably the biggest figurehead pro player in Smite, was on our team for this last split, but he will no longer be playing competitive Smite. He is going to be pursuing his Overwatch career. For those that haven't been following Lass very closely, watching his streams or anything, you may not know this, but Lass is huge in Overwatch. I mean, he was the big boy of Smite, but he has blown up over on Overwatch. He's getting 4,000 to 5,000 viewers on his own. He's in the top 150 players right now. He's made great friends with Tim the Tapman. He's friends with Seagull, who's the best player in Overwatch. So he's friends with the other big boys. He's making himself a big boy. As far as career choices, it's just the best possible career choice for him that he sees. Overwatch is growing. There's a big competitive scene coming up behind it. It's made by Blizzard. It's going to have ESPN style slots. Absolutely no hard feelings. I love Lasses to death. And honestly, I'm super happy for him, and I can't wait to go cheer him on at Overwatch events because hell yeah, I'm going to get to go check out some of those events. If Lasses is playing, I'm going to be there to go root for him. You know what I'm saying? Big boys stick together. And finally, we are replacing... By replacing, I mean a third member is leaving. We're not actually replacing anybody. Everybody's actually just kind of leaving for their own reasons, which is better than replacing people. It's just people skedaddling on their ways in life, which is still sad, but it's not the same thing. The final player that has decided to part ways with us is Matty Pocket, also known as the Pickler, also known as Marty, also known as Tiny Boy. Matty has decided basically that the team environment isn't really the same for him with Lasses gone. For those that don't know, Team Flex was basically started with Lasses and Maddie, and then they came to me. But it was basically their baby, and it was their idea that they kind of brought over just to make, the stream team and stuff. And for Maddie, it just wasn't really the same thing anymore, kind of with Lass leaving and with Oceans leaving, the team environment, it wasn't the same team anymore, right? It was just me and Weekend and him. So he has decided as of right now, I think he's just going to focus on his streaming career, stuff like that. I don't think he's looking to join other competitive teams, but if he is, then I would recommend looking at him to pick him up if you're a competitive team needing a solo laner. But I think he just wants to work right now on focusing on the stream career and growing all of those avenues outside of the SPL. So, as a team, that leaves us with me and Weekend. Kind of weird that it ends up being us two after all was said and done after the last, 10 months. If you would have told me approximately 7 months ago that it would be just me and Weekend on a team, I would have said, sure. But, so that's kind of, the baseline that we've got, right? So, I am staying in the support role. I am staying there. That is the role that I'm most comfortable with. It's the role that I'm best at, and it's the role that I can shot call best at. Weekend will also be staying in the jungle. It is the role that he's best at, the most practiced at, and the role that he can best shot call from. It also means that between the two of us, we basically have shot calling entirely down, and we can completely focus on, mechanical skill, hard work, stuff like that. For the other roles, we don't need any shot calling expertise necessarily, because both of us completely fill up that, slot that we needed. So let's go ahead and start from the beginning. Let's go ahead and start ADC. So Oceans had left. Obviously, we knew Oceans was leaving first. So we started looking for ADCs first. We basically took a while to come up with a short list of ADCs that we really wanted. We said, what are the ADCs that we most want? Okay, so we basically got a list of like 5 ADCs. We said any of these ADCs may potentially be quality players. And so we were looking at, if ex-pro players were open, top ranked players, and especially top challenger players, especially on the teams that maybe were going to be competing in relegations, as obviously those teams have proven through Challenger Cup that they can play on a schedule and they can play in their roles. So our first team announcement for our new player is our ADC, which we are very happy with. He was our first choice for ADC. In fact, we got our first choice for every role. Praise the Lord. Is Vaninu. We will be using Vaninu for our ADC in this split here on Team Allegiance, guys. For those who don't know who he is both simultaneously a top-end ranked player, and he was on a challenger team that will be competing in relegations. He had helped basically kind of carry his team. Honestly, he was the all-star player on that team, and he had helped carry them into the relegations rounds. His team will be playing later this week. And I'm sorry that I stole your all-star player, but I'm not actually sorry. He's amazing, and I'm super excited to be working with him. One big thing about him as well, and something that we've been looking for as a team as a whole, is to make sure we have positive vibes coming from everybody. On the teams that I'm captain of, I like to make sure everybody's happy and make sure that even when you're losing in a scrim, you're staying positive and you're communicating and you're looking for things and you're trying things. And that's really important. And Ven is one of those guys that's super focused on always making sure his mind is on the game. No matter what's happening in the game, he's always looking to make plays, and he's always looking sure he's communicating and talking about rotations and asking if he can do stuff and trying to call out wards, gold fairies, etc. And we're very excited to be working with Ven. So, let's go ahead and skip to the other end. And we're going to be talking about the solo lane. So for solo lane, it's one of those interesting roles where it's very important there's so many aspects to solo lane, right? Like, it may seem like one of the simpler roles, but it's very, very important that you have a couple things down. One, there's the in-laning phase, right? So the actual laning phase of going through and making sure you can clear the creeps and get the fire creeps when you can, get your blue buffs, know when to invade their blue buffs. And that is the aspect of the game that I would say is the easiest to learn as a solo laner, because that's what you're putting the most time into. When you go play ranked games, you're going to have that laning phase every single game all the time. So that's the easiest part of being a solo laner. The harder part about being a solo laner is knowing when to rotate, when not to rotate, where to position yourself in team fights, because you don't get those all the time inside of a ranked match, right? You don't always make it to a 30-minute mark where you're always doing the team fights and you're always doing the positioning. And so really we were focusing a lot on how strong is this solo laner in a team fight, how good is their communication, are they calling out abilities, are they letting us know what's happening in the backline, what abilities that they've been using, what's down, is their meditation up, are they calling for teleports? And so that communication aspect and the teamfight aspect were the two things we were looking for most in a solo laner. And so our new solo laner, who we're very excited to work for and who is very driven to be a very good solo laner, and they're already very good, is going to be Cope Baby. Cope Baby, who has been a top ranked player, and he has been off and on Challenger Cup teams as well, has seen his fair share of semi-pro play. For those of you that have played against him, you know that he has a very strong ability. He has some gods that he's absolutely crazy on, and he can carry his brains out. And I'm not going to tell you who they are, but my man has got some carries in his pocket that he likes to work with. He works very well with our team. He does a lot of good stuff. The big thing, like I was talking about, is those team fights. It's so important as a solo laner to make sure you can communicate what you're doing and communicate what the enemy is doing in the midst of all the chaos, in the midst of hitting all of your abilities. And that's the one thing that he is absolutely fantastic at. And so that helps us a lot in team fights with me and Weekend having to do our own fair share of shot calling, but in different manners. So, finally, this leaves us to middle. This leaves us to middle, right? So last left, which meant we needed a final player for middle. Mid is a very difficult role, basically for the last year or so, in terms of it's where all the action is, right? Basically, starting at that 3 or so minute mark, it's going to be the support, the mid laner, and the jungler all in the mid lane together, all rotating around together. Everything's all together, right? And everything is about that 3v3 fight and how much just practice in the role you have, right? It's all about experience, really, in the mid lane right now. The best mid laners in the world, if you think about it, they're all super heavy in the experience-wise compared to other roles where you may be able to bring up some like upcoming stars. Mid lane is really about experience, and so that's one of the big things we were looking for in the mid role was somebody who had the experience in the mid lane, who had been a pro before, and who knew all of those mechanics going into it. And so we decided the best person that you can pick up for experience is somebody that's beaten the game before, somebody that's gotten first place at Worlds. And so we have picked up MLC Stealth for the mid lane to round off our team, guys. I'm very excited to work with Stealth. I have never had the opportunity to play with Stealth before, and he's absolutely awesome. He has an amazing god pool mechanically. He's one of the best mids that Smite has ever seen, and I'm very excited to be working with him. I think everybody will be very excited to have MLC back on a team. I know he's been very hungry trying to, find the right team for him, trying to get back into the competitive scene because of stuff that happened earlier this year, and I hope that we can be that right team for him. Already, things are looking great for us. We've been putting as much work as we can in scrims, guys. It's not going to be an easy, it's not going to be an easy split for us. We are a new team, but we are going to put in as much work as humanly possible. We're going to practice individually. We're going to practice as a team. We're going to work on communication. We're going to work on our shot calling, and we're going to try to give the best performance that we can this year for all of the fans and, of course, everybody that knows that we can do it. And we're going to try our best, guys, to make it to Worlds this year. And with this roster, I'm confident that we have the opportunity to make it if we put in the time. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know down in the comments if you're watching on YouTube, guys, what you think about the new roster. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It's the final countdown. Ba-da-ba-boo. Ba-da-ba-ba-boo. Ba-da-ba-boo. The final countdown.